Welcome to our world in public safety. We spend time in these areas called stairwells that aren't typically frequented by visitors of a hotel such as the Roosevelt. But it's a very critical area. When we have an incident, this vertical shaft is what we utilize to get from place to place in a building. Sometimes we'll use the elevator, depending on what the emergency is. A lot of times we'll use a stairwell, and you've probably seen that in news reports and TV shows and things of that nature. So you can imagine firefighters coming off the truck from the ground level. They're coming in with turnout gear on. They have self-contained breathing apparatus, tools, you know, about 100+ pounds of equipment that they're taking with them, extra hose and that type of thing coming up through here. And one other piece they have with them is that radio. That radio is their lifeline to the outside world, to each other and to the command outside to let them know what's going on in this particular environment. So it's critical that this environment stays a protected environment and that the coverage in this area is sufficient for them to communicate. NFPA 72 says that you need 99% coverage in this area. For those that are doing DAS designs, typically you're focused on the other side of this firewall right here and you're thinking, I can get 95% coverage or I just have to get coverage in that world. In public safety, it's 95 out there. It's 99 in here in critical areas. So it changes how you do business when you get over to the public safety world. Now when you're bringing that system into this area, there's some pitfalls that people will typically run into. One of them is, how do I get from that side of the firewall to this side? Well, I just drill a hole, like you see some of these places right here, and I run a cable through. That's okay if you go back and you properly seal that particular opening to the rating of that wall. This happens to be a 2-hour rated enclosure here. And when this cable comes through, they have to use a product, as they have here. They use a product from 3M, that's probably CP25 fire caulk, to seal that particular penetration. That doesn't always work. It depends on if that was tested for that purpose for the particular type of cable you're running through. If you look above your head on the behind you over here, above the door, there's a little sleeve coming through, about a 2-inch square sleeve coming through with some cables in it. Oftentimes people will say, well, here's a sleeve existing. I'll just use that sleeve. Why not? It makes it easy, right? I don't have to get a drill out and drill a new hole and all that. The problem with that is that particular sleeve is a fire-rated sleeve that has a design criteria as to how many and what size cables can come through it. So if you add more in it, you think there's space. More is not always better because that's typically sealed with a product that expands in the event of a fire to help seal that closed so that smoke, heat, and toxic gases don't come through. If your guy penetrates that, guess what you get to do? Redo it, because you have to take it back out and you have to put a new sleeve in and redo that. Some other pitfalls we see is I'll just run my cabling hooked to these pipes right here. See these pipes above your head? Those are sprinkler pipes. And we'll see people come in and take the easy way out and take wire ties and just run their cabling to that particular piping. It's already running through the building. Why not put mine on it? Well, the reason is NFPA 13 says nothing can be connected to a fire sprinkler pipe. So all that nice work you did, you get to take down and redo because it's not allowed. And it's not that we're trying to be mean as fire officials. It's just the way it is. It can't be connected to it because it's not designed to hold that additional loading. One of the other things that happens is if you see this stuff connected to these I-beams right here, that's spray-on fireproofing. Why that's important, you think back to the World Trade Center and that tragic event when that building collapsed, one of the things that was identified was some of the fireproofing had been removed over the steel over the years of that building. But when you do that, you create a weak spot in the event there's a significant fire taking place that weakens the steel and allows the building to fall. That wasn't the only reason in that one. There were jet fuel and other things that came into play. But if you look right here, you've got some fireproofing coming off. What happens oftentimes is folks come in to mount equipment, whether it's unistrut or whatever, to hold your DAS equipment, and they'll just scrape some of that off, and that way they can put their C-clamp right on that steel I-beam like these sprinkler clamps are. The problem then is you have to come back and reapply that fireproofing. So it's an addition to your contract that you probably didn't plan on, but the fire official is going to say it has to be redone because it was required to be there to start with. So understanding a lot of these nuances about how you get your equipment in, how you put your devices on the wall and that type of thing is very critical from a cost standpoint for installers to understand the ramifications if I violate some other aspect of the code. So you can fully comply with the in-building requirements such as Section 710 of the International Fire Code, 510, I'm sorry, but you can violate a lot of other sections of the code along the way to that work. So it's critical that you understand the implications related to that. Public safety systems are paramount, that firefighters can talk to each other and that they can talk back out to the people in the street. So putting these systems in NEMA 4 enclosures, for example, how many of you, I know you're familiar with that. Oftentimes one of the things we talk about is, well, why do we put batteries in NEMA 4 enclosures? Because then I have to drill a hole in the NEMA 4 enclosure to allow the batteries to vent while they're being charged. Exactly, it's an issue. And those are the types of things that we want to approach the code adoption world with and say, maybe we need to make a change on that. Maybe we need to modify some of those requirements between now and January 1, get those submitted into the pipeline for adoption to make it easier on our systems.